I too brought some notes up here. I know that I recognize many of you in this room, and I want to thank you for your involvement, regardless of whether it's for me or my opponent. Getting involved is very, very important, and I really appreciate the time that many of you spent out there slugging away in the sleet with us. I've already spoken to you about why I got involved, but let me just repeat the 3 goals that I had stepping into this race. I've never run for anything, and I was disturbed by what's going on in Washington. And I can't go to Washington, but I can do something right here about our neighborhoods and our county. And so I got involved, and I'm running for the 3 goals of fairness, efficiency, and integrity. Those are the 3 things that I think are the most important things in this race. Fairness in that you're fair to both sides. You're not a judicial activist. You don't bring a personal agenda up there. You basically listen to the facts, you apply the law, and you're fair. And the reason why is because this court has over 1,000 pending criminal cases. And if a person is convicted by 12 people and they put him in prison for life, you do not want the case overturned. Because if it's overturned, then he walks out the door. A reversal on the civil side can be appealed, but a reversal on this side many times means the person walks out the door into our community. The efficiency goal is based on my experience in Montgomery County court system for 15 years. I have lived in this county for 15 years, and I have sat there for 3 hours waiting for one simple reset. And you and I paid for me to sit there for 3 hours. And in April, I sat there and I looked around the room, and there were 20 attorneys waiting for one simple reset. And I had 3 hours. So I looked around and I said, well, I wonder how many of these attorneys are court appointed. Well, guess what? 17 of them were court appointed. $60 to $90 per hour that you and I paid for them to sit there when all they had was a simple reset. Because you see, on the first setting in a criminal case, you can't do anything. You haven't had discovery, you haven't had a chance to look at the report, you haven't had even a chance, if you're court appointed, to even maybe perhaps even meet your client. So you and I paid for 17 attorneys to sit there. And so then I started looking at how long it takes to actually get to trial. And my law partner was appointed to a case where the gentleman walked in on day 1, and all he wanted to do is admit his guilt. He said, I'm 18 years old, I messed up, I confessed at the scene, I told everyone what I did, and I know I'm going to prison. And we said, well, gosh, that's a good thing. You want to admit your guilt. It took 2.5 years before we finally could get this gentleman before the judge and get him pled guilty. And the state dragged their feet, and one of the reasons why is he was going to testify against his co-defendants. Well, guess what? You can send someone to prison and do what's known as a bench warrant and get them back. But they chose to leave him in Montgomery County Jail. So I got out my calculator, and I added up how much you and I paid for that one gentleman to sit there for 2.5 years. It was $65,000 for one defendant. So last March and April, when I sat down and I looked at all of these issues, I thought, I can do better. I have lived in this county for 15 years. I have been a criminal prosecutor. I've been on both sides. I know the issues, and I can do better. Finally, my personal integrity. I want you to know it's very important to me that the same person I am on Sunday morning, that I'm the same person on Monday morning. And what that means is, you know, I am the same person that you see. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and I'm a lawyer. And I have spent my entire life trying to live up to my grandparents and my mother and dad, how they raised me. And it's very important to me that my personal integrity stays intact, because I was raised to believe that if you lose your personal integrity, you can never regain it. So I have tried to run this race that way. I have tried to be positive about who I am and what I bring to the table, and I continue to do that. Now, I'm endorsed. I've been called a criminal defense attorney, which I do that now. I've been on both sides. And, you know, I never thought I'd do criminal defense work. I expected to be a career prosecutor. That's what I had always planned on doing. And many years ago, whenever I was a felony chief, my son became very, very ill. And he had a life-threatening situation and had to have 4 surgeries. So I took some time off. We had the 4 surgeries at Texas Children's. And as he got better, I missed practicing law and helping people. And so my husband encouraged me to start my own firm, which I did in 2003. And I'm a partner in my firm, and I'm very proud to say that the job I do, I still have my integrity. And I may be the only person that many of my clients see that is a believer, that is someone who's responsible, who pays her bills on time, who shows up on time to court. I may be the only person that they see. And so I didn't really understand why, what God had planned for me. But I took the opportunity to be the same person that you see here today that I am when I meet with them. And I truly believe that people need to be held accountable for their actions. I think that our country has stepped away from that. I think our children and our children's children will not benefit if we do not hold people accountable for their actions. So to give you a snapshot of who I was and what I have been about, because I have now been endorsed by the Conroe Police Department Officers Association. I have been endorsed by over 100 people in law enforcement, including many people at the District Attorney's Office. They know me, and they know me to be fair, and they know me to have integrity. And even though we're on different sides sometimes, they still have endorsed me. I've been endorsed by numerous detectives at the Fire Marshal's Office, including Jimmy Williams, the Fire Marshal Chief, Roger Bennett from Conroe Police Department. Numerous other gentlemen and women in law enforcement have stepped forward to put their name behind mine and tell people that they trust me and they believe in me. And when I was a prosecutor, let's talk about some of the cases, because this court has over 1,000 pending criminal cases. They're all felonies. They're all very important cases. Day one, whoever is elected, that person will have to walk in and be confronted with murderers, rapists, robbers, people who have hurt our children, and this judge needs to know what to do, and I do, I can promise you. I handled State versus Zurichta. He received life in prison. He's still there. State versus Levante, life in prison. State versus LaFleur, life in prison. State versus Diana Mescal, who killed a 7-year-old little boy, life in prison. State versus Billy Ray Coyle, sexually assaulted a retarded 16-year-old child, 45 years. State versus Laura Jane Gill. She tried to kill a gentleman, and she was a drunk driver, 45 years. She died in prison. State versus Fuentes, 15 years, aggravated sexual assault. State versus Mania, 15 years. He was a legal alien. I called and had him deported. He may be back. I say this because I want you to know it's serious. This is a serious court.